Hello everyone, I am Debbie Lee and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be talking about something a little bit differently today. So today's overall topic is building a business, and within that I want to talk about a couple of different things, but first I just would like to say, since working at the White Samurai Investment Group, I have found it so incredibly eye-awakening. It's like my third eye has opened. And since being under David Rains, before I came into that environment, I was the same as you. Well, maybe you're like me, but I was a working class girly, born and bred and raised, and it's been difficult. Like, I've been there. So I've always felt like a working class girly who she was almost getting ahead, but somehow was just never quite there. I was smart. I still am. I was smart. I was dedicated. I was trying. I worked hard, but I always felt like I was running towards something, and something that I could just never grasp until I started working here. Thank God. So I always felt like, am I going to feel like money is slipping through my fingers all the time? Why does everyone else seem to know something that I wasn't taught? How does stability feel like a dream when I'm doing everything right? Something's not adding up. And if you've ever felt that, I was you. And that's exactly why I created this space, so that we could learn together and be like-minded people in this framework of trying to work together and build things together. And you don't need to be struggling alone. Absolutely not. So welcome, you belong here. And if you relate to anything so far, give me some kind of emoji in the comment. So before we get into today's topic, I just want to delve into a short little story, a success story, a story that you may or may not have heard about. One that isn't as popular, but one that definitely rings true. So I just want to talk about the Dyson story. So I want to just talk about this story because I understand persistence and patience and building something from nothing. And that story's not about someone who started with millions or someone who had perfect connections or someone that already knew what they were doing. No, this is the story of James Dyson, the vacuum guy. So the man behind the vacuum now sits quietly in half of our homes, but whose journey was anything but quiet. So let me paint this a little bit more clearly. James Dyson spent 5 years developing his first vacuum idea. 5 years. And during those 5 years, he created 5,100 failed prototypes. That's 1,000 prototypes per year. I don't know what the math is on that per day or per month, but so he built something, tested it. He literally built it and then he tested it. So these aren't just designs. They're working models that didn't work, obviously. Tried and tried again, 5,100 times. So he wasn't failing because he was wrong. He was failing because he was failing towards his way of precision. So he knew what he wanted, but he just couldn't quite get there yet. So Dyson was obsessed with something simple, right? Airflow mechanics. So he believed suction shouldn't rely on bags that lose power over time. He believed that air could be harnessed differently. And he believed that everyday people deserved better designed tools. But the world didn't believe him. Every major vacuum manufacturer rejected him, not because the product didn't work, but because the bag industry was too profitable. This was way prior to bagless, cordless vacuum cleaners. These were when you had to plug them into the wall and you had to replace the whole entire bag when you wanted to clean out the vacuum. How crazy. So if Dyson's idea spread, vacuum companies would lose billions and billions of dollars in disposable bag sales. The market wasn't rejecting Dyson's product. It was rejecting the change his product represented. So Dyson did something entrepreneurs are terrified to do. He kept going at it alone. This is the part that people don't talk about. He went into debt. His family was worried. He worked in a shed behind his home because he couldn't afford more. He was making his own prototypes by hand himself, molding plastic by himself, sometimes literally all night long. There was no applause, there was no validation, there was no proof it would ever succeed. But what kept Dyson going wasn't belief in the product. It was the belief in the principle behind the product. That is what real entrepreneurship is. Not chasing trends, not copying others, but building because you can't ignore the idea inside of you. Finally, after years of rejection, a single Japanese company agreed to license Dyson's technology because they admired his persistence, not just his invention. And from that tiny licensing deal, the Dyson brand was born. So years later, Dyson became a global household name. The bagless vacuum became the industry standard as it is today. Dyson expanded into fans and dryers and purifiers and so much more products. And James Dyson became a billionaire. But the real story isn't the success, it's this. The world will not believe your idea until your idea becomes undeniable. Sometimes the market catches up to the creator, not the other way around. So what do we learn from Dyson? You don't need to start with money. You don't need approval. You don't need confidence either. You don't need permission, but you do need alignment with your vision patience long enough to build it, the courage to continue after rejection, and a business model that reflects who you truly are. So this is why today's topic matters so deeply. If you choose a business model that doesn't fit you, you don't burn out. You understand the difference between busy and productive. You don't waste years. And if you learn how to start with no money, you become unstoppable. Dyson didn't win because he was lucky. He won because he refused to abandon himself. And if that resonates with something in your chest, something that's like, oh, yeah, I like that. That's very inspiring. I would like you to comment. Any kind of comment you want. So this story is why I'm so passionate about today's conversation and why my time working under David Rains at White Samurai was so powerful. Because Dave taught me the same truth. Your idea is not meant to be convenient. It's meant to be expressed. And if you commit, if you learn to build strategically, your vision will eventually become undeniable too. So that leads us to the first point of today's topic. Number 1, choosing a business model that fits you. And in relation to that, we will talk about psychology, sustainability, and authentic brand values. So, number 1, choosing a business model that fits. So, before we get into that, I'm just going to read out some statistics because I thought they were quite interesting. And I had heard them a couple of times here and there mentioned in and out of the office, but according to the Census Bureau here in the US, the number of business applications filed in 2023 hit a record 5.5 million. So that shows huge interest, but interest alone doesn't guarantee success. And the failure rate of small businesses is about 18% within the first year, and then roughly about around half by the end of year 5. So let's just take a deeper look into why it's so important to pick a business model that truly fits with you and your identity. Because it's beyond the money. This isn't about being smart or strategic. This is about psychology, sustainability, and building something authentic that can last. So here is the truth. When you pick a business model that doesn't align with who you are, what happens? You burn out, you feel drained, you feel frustrated, you start questioning your skills, your worth, sometimes even your identity, and inevitably your business falters because it's built on a structure that doesn't require energy you naturally have. So this is why psychology plays a huge role here. Your personality, habits, and natural strengths are all part of your decision-making system. So as an example, if you are naturally detail-oriented, methodical, a business that requires quick, spontaneous decisions might leave you constantly stressed. If you are creative and a visionary but hate repetitive admin tasks, that business model demands heavy back office work that will drain your energy quickly. So this isn't just preference, it's science. Research shows that entrepreneurs who choose models align. Research shows that entrepreneurs who choose models aligned with their personal strengths and motivations are significantly more likely to persist, grow sustainably, and reach profitability. That's why sustainability in business is so crucial. A sustainable business isn't just one that survives financially, it's one that can survive without burning you out. When your business matches your natural rhythm, your decision making is clearer. Your problem solving is faster and your energy lasts. That energy isn't just for you, it flows into your products, your services, and your brand. So, as an example, let's imagine two women start businesses this year, right? So one picks a business model she is very passionate about and she knows it inside and out. She knows that she can handle emotionally. And the other one picks a trendy model because she heard that it's trending. So she wanted to get in on it quick. But 6 months later, the second one is exhausted and burnt out and she's doubting herself. And the numbers above show this is common. So that leads us to authentic brand values that matter. Let me just write that down. Authentic brand values. So now let's talk about authenticity. Your business is an extension of you. The values you hold, the way you communicate, and the promises you make to your customers becomes your brand. When you choose a business model that doesn't resonate with your core beliefs, you're forced to perform in ways that feel unnatural to you. So customers sense that. Authenticity is contagious. So in relation to Dyson, their success wasn't just about making a better vacuum, it was about solving a real problem in a way that aligned with James's obsession with efficiency, quality, and engineering innovation. That authentic passion drove the product, the marketing, and ultimately the brand. So let's contrast that with a business that's trendy but doesn't align with the founder's values. It often feels hollow, inconsistent, or easily abandoned. So employees, partners, and customers all pick up on that mismatch. So that's where I relate to personally. I have worked for a lot of brands in the past that just kind of feel like they're doing it just for the business and not because they actually want to do that job or sell that product. So it's hard, even just as an employee working for a business like that, it's hard for you yourself to keep working there if the rest of the company doesn't believe in what they do or even what they want to sell. So it's hard for you as an employee to just keep working there sustainably because it makes you not believe in the business. And why would you want to work there if you don't believe in the business, right? So that's also a factor. So how do we go about doing that? So step number 1, we want to identify your authentic values. So what do you truly stand for? What do you want to deliver to the world? Write it down. Your business model should amplify these values, not fight against them. Step number 2, align tasks with strengths. This is psychological self-care. Don't force yourself into a business that drains your natural abilities. When your daily work feels aligned, your motivation remains high even during hard times. Step number 3, consider long-term sustainability. Ask yourself, can I see myself doing this in 5, 10, 15, even 20 years without burnout? Am I gonna still wanna wake up and do it every single day for the rest of my life? Does this model feel like a marathon that I can pace myself through instead of a sprint that will leave me exhausted? Dyson didn't succeed overnight, especially not with 5,000 prototypes. His long-term persistence required energy and focus and alignment with his obsession for solving a real-world problem. So, some common mistakes that people make, they choose trendy or hot business models that don't resonate with who they are. They ignore personal strengths, which forces them into tasks that they hate. Thinking sustainability is only about money rather than energy and alignment, especially if you're the one running it. Failing to define authentic brand values, which lead to inconsistent messaging that confuses customers. So why does this all matter? Deb, what's happening here? When your business aligns with who you are, your energy and your values, 3 things happen. You stay motivated even when challenges arise. You attract customers and collaborators who resonate with your vision, and you build something that can truly last. Instead of a business you abandon out of frustration. Sustainability, alignment, and authenticity are not optional. They are the foundation for long-term growth and financial freedom, which we have mentioned before on this channel. So, topic number 2, the difference between busy and productive. They might sound like the same thing, but when you think about it, they are actually quite different. So, I don't know if you've heard of this quote before, but I'll sleep when I'm successful. I just need to grind harder. I'll relax once I've made it. This is one of the greatest traps of our generation. We were raised in a culture, we were raised in a culture that romanticized struggle and taught us exhaustion equals achievement. Unfortunately, And I lived that life for a long time. And I can't do it. It's just not me. It never was, it never has been, and I refuse to let it be my future as well. So this is exactly why I'm giving these tips out into the public. So I used to measure my worth by how tired I was at the end of the day, thinking that if I was exhausted and as soon as I put my head down on the pillow, I would just fall asleep from how busy and crazy my day was, that would be a sign of a successful day, but it doesn't always work like that. So the amount of hours that I worked didn't always equal how productive I was, but when I was busy, I was overwhelmed and my thoughts were scattered and I was very reactive to anything. But I know now that being productive is when everything is clear and I'm feeling grounded and everything is intentional. I'm not wasting my time on things that I don't need to be wasting my time on. So that leads us to the next point that I'm going to make. Busy moves, but productive progresses. So they're not the same thing. Originally, you might have thought busy and productive are the same thing, but they're not. So busy equals moves, productive equals progress. So an example that I am going to include here now is I want you to picture two entrepreneurs. One spends Monday through to Friday doing calls and emails and redesigning her website, tweaking graphics, and the other spends 2 days landing actual clients, 2 days creating the product, and the rest on learning. Which one will sleep well on Sunday night? Which one will actually grow? The numbers show growth comes when you focus on high impact actions. So that's why I'm bringing this up, because your nervous system is part of your business strategy. If you're constantly rushing and pressuring yourself, feeling behind, your decisions become emotional instead of strategic. And you might have heard this before if you've watched previous videos. An emotional decision making leads to inconsistent results, burnout, quitting too soon, regretful purchases, scattered decision direction. So this is why so many businesses never get past the first year. It's not skill, it's not intelligence, and it's not the lack of hard work. It's dysregulated energy. So David used to say to me that chaos cannot build clarity. Chaos cannot build clarity. So that means if your internal world is frantic, your businesses reflect that. So we want to shift from being busy to productive, so that when you're busy, you are being productive. So how do we do that? Step number 1, we want to choose 3 priorities per day. And they're not going to be tasks, they are priorities. Even if they're intangible, physically, yeah. So these are the 3 things that are actually going to move your business forward. Everything else is noise. So step 2 is schedule rest as a tool, not as a reward. Sleep as a need. Rest is not earned. Rest is part of the strategy, because if you're not properly restful, you can't you can't think clearly. Athletes don't train 24/7. They train and then recover, because recovery is where strength is built. And entrepreneurs are athletes of the mind. So that comes to step number 3. Measure outcomes, not hours. And I want you to ask daily, outcomes, not hours. I want you to ask yourself daily, what did I complete today? Not how long was I busy? Because completion is progress and hours are vanity. So here are some confusing common mistakes that people make. So confusing motion with momentum. Movement feels productive, but without direction, it's just motion. A person can run for hours on a treadmill and never move forward. That is what busy is. Productive is moving in a straight line, not in circles. So let's just take a minute and we'll take a deep breath in. If you felt that anything resonated with you there up until this moment, I want you to leave any comment that you feel you want someone else to see, or even me, or even the team at White Samurai. So topic number 3, I'll just show you what those number 2 steps were. So busy versus productive. So 3 priorities per day, sleep as a need, and then outcomes are not hours. So topic number 3, starting a business with no money. So let's dive into starting a business with no money. And let me tell you up front, this is where many people get discouraged before they even begin. They hear business and they automatically think, oh my God, I need a loan, I need investors, I need thousands of dollars, but that is not the reality. The reality is some of the most successful businesses started with almost nothing. And it was the constraint of having no money that forced creativity, problem solving, and to learn execution. So why are we talking about this? When I was working under David Rains, I witnessed countless examples of people starting businesses with minimal capital using strategy, persistence, and resourcefulness. Seeing this firsthand was eye-opening. It wasn't about throwing money at an idea. It's about something sustainable using intelligence over cash. The principles I learned there are exactly what I want to share with you today. So, business formation surge. Entrepreneurship is booming. So, the US averaged about 430,000 new business applications per month in last year, which is roughly 50% more than 2019. So, according to one source, 65% of new businesses fail within the first 10 years in the US. 65%. That's over half. So, for us to be starting with no money, you want these steps. So, the first step is leverage what you already have. You don't need to buy fancy equipment or lease a storefront. You need skills, creativity, and knowledge. Leverage what you have. Because if you're good at writing or designing, coaching, social media management, tutoring, or coding, you already have the raw material to build your business. Start by packaging your skills into a service or product. So this could mean creating digital content, offering consultation, or doing freelance work. So for example, a friend of mine started a social media management business using just her laptop and her internet connection. She didn't have an office, she didn't have anyone behind her, she didn't have any investors, and within a year she scaled to multiple clients and reinvested every single dollar into growth. So step number 2, use free or low cost tools. Free low cost tools. Because the internet is your friend. Platforms like Canva, Google's digital workspace, Wix, or even TikTok and Instagram can serve as free marketing, design, and also sales as well. So design sales. So you don't need expensive software or a massive ad budget at the start. Lean into what's available and allocate every small dollar to something that directly adds value to your business. So you want to think every dollar spent should have a purpose. Don't buy things just because they look professional. You're just wasting money, especially if it's not going to add anything. And the third point, start small. Validate and iterate. So step number 3, you want to start small, you want to validate everything, and then you want to just keep going. You want to iterate it. So you test your product or your service on a small scale first. Offer your service to your friends and your family or a small online community. Collect all of the feedback. Learn what works, learn what doesn't, before investing more time and energy. So that reduces the risk and ensures you don't waste resources on ideas that don't have a market. So, for instance, Dyson famously tested thousands of prototypes before their first successful vacuum. While you won't be reinventing a household staple, even though maybe that's what you're interested in, the principle is the same. Test, learn, reiterate. So some common mistakes that people make are thinking that you need a large sum of money to start. Money is a tool and it's not the foundation. Skipping validation is like offering a product that nobody wants and wastes time and energy. Spending on fancy branding before your product is tested. Simple branding works. If your product solves a real problem, it'll speak for itself. So imagine you start your business on a shoestring budget, a tiny little budget. Your competitor invests heavily in offices and branding before validating. You launch with your laptop and a clear offer. The odds say that you're in the majority that start small, but if you scale sensibly, you're still a minority, but you're the minority that would last 10 years, and that is powerful. So just before we end this topic today, I do want to just talk about Lego and how they are a very inspiring story of creativity, crisis, and a comeback. So the iconic brand has become a global empire, and yet their journey was far from smooth. So this is a story that perfectly illustrates why building businesses that align with strengths, values, and vision matter, and why persistence, focus, and strategy can literally save a company from the brink of collapse. So the Lego story begins in 1932 in a small workshop in Denmark. The founder, I hope I'm not going to butcher this now, Ole Kirk Christensen, the founder, was a carpenter who made wooden toys during the Great Depression. And imagine starting a small business at that time. Economic hardship, scarce resources, uncertainty everywhere. But Ole had a passion for creating toys that brought joy. He believed quality craftsmanship in the simple joy of play. That vision would become Lego's guiding principle. So fast forward to the mid-20th century, and Lego had invented the famous plastic interlocking bricks that we know today. The company grew steadily, focusing on quality, durability, and creativity. Lego wasn't just selling toys, it was selling an idea, a product that could imagine inspiration and inspire imagination and learning. So this is a very important lesson for today. Your business model isn't just about how you make money. It's about the value and experience you provide. But this is where it gets interesting. So in the early 2000s, Lego faced a massive crisis. Despite its strong brand and beloved products, the company was losing money at an alarming rate. So their sales were declining and they were overextending into ventures that didn't fit their core business, like theme parks and video games and even apparel. Imagine being part of that company, millions of fans worldwide, but internally the team were overworked and unfocused and directionless. So the lesson here is clear. Even iconic brands fail if they stray too far from their strengths and values. So Lego had become too busy with chasing trends, losing sight of the model that built them. They were no longer aligned with their why purpose or their unique expertise. They then offered some kind of turnaround, which is one of the most important parts of the story. So Lego's leadership in 2004, led by the CEO, decided to return to the core principles that made Lego great: creativity, learning, and quality play. They streamlined product lines, cut unnecessary projects, and focused on what the brand truly did best. By aligning the business model with the company's strengths, Lego went from a near bankruptcy to profitability, eventually becoming one of the world's most successful companies in the world. So here's what I want you to take away from Lego's story. Alignment matters. Just like Lego, they struggled when they strayed from their core values. Your business will struggle if your model doesn't fit your skills, passions, and strengths. Don't chase every trend. Being busy chasing the hot thing, copying what's successful for others, can drain your resources and your energy. Focus on your unique strengths and what makes your business special. Iterate strategically. Lego didn't rebuild overnight. They cut, they refocused, tested, and reintroduced products thoughtfully. Your business will grow faster if you test, validate, and learn from small experience before scaling. Resilience and persistence pay off. Lego almost went bankrupt, yet by returning to their core values, they thrived. Challenges are not failures. They are lessons and opportunities to align and to realign. So I want you to imagine you are starting a small business today. You've got some skills, you've got some ideas, but you feel pulled in a million directions because everything looks profitable. This is exactly what Lego experienced. The brands that survive and thrive are the ones that choose a model that fits, stays true to their values, and focuses on what really matters. Everything else can literally wait. So when you think about your own journey, remember Lego. Remember the power of focus, alignment, and iteration. Whether you're starting with no money, feeling overwhelmed, or unsure about your business model, the principles are the same. Find your strengths, stick to them, and grow intentionally. And let's just wrap everything up in bite-sized pieces so you can remember the key points. So you want to choose a business model that fits with you because you need to align your model with your skills, resources, and lifestyle. Make sure that you test and validate and pick a model that works for you. You want to know the difference between being busy and productive by focus on high impact tasks, plan intentionally, reflect daily, and don't confuse activity with results. And the last point that we covered, starting a business with no money. Leverage skills, use free tools, start small, validate and iterate. Money is a tool, not a foundation. And remember Dyson. Remember persistence, iteration, and strategy. Remember that success isn't instant. It's built through deliberate action, focus, and learning from every single mistake. And I just want to remind you that if you want guidance, support, and a community that helps you to grow while learning these principles, you can always join the White Samurai Investment Group. Please reach out and we will do our best to help you with whatever queries or questions that you have. And I just want to say thank you for being here and thank you for giving yourself this time. And thank you for choosing to learn. You are capable of more than you realize, and the steps are here for you to take. Thank you.